Right, the latest report I read said that people are keeping their phones up to 4 years now, or around an average of 4 years. So that includes me. I had a phone for 4 years and it came time to upgrade. My phone was, of course, the iPhone 6. Not the S, not anything else, just the 6. iPhone 6. And one of the big reasons I upgraded was because the home button had broken. The screen was cracked for a second time, although that's not the fault of the phone. And it was just getting slow. It was time. It was time to upgrade. Mainly because it's a huge pain when you can't use the home button. As you've probably seen, the phone I upgraded to is the Pixel 2 XL, which is, of course, bigger. Quite a bit bigger than the phone. In fact, I could fit one inside there. It's so big. Although it's not thicker, just bigger. So this is going to cover why I chose the Pixel 2 XL, because I really kind of wanted the iPhone 8. That was a big thing. I was really leaning towards it. Not the 10 or X, or whatever you want to call it, or 10S or R, XS, XR, XRS. I don't even know what they call it these days. It's just a bunch of numbers. Now, one note is I was going to have to leave the Apple ecosystem sooner or later because Apple has decided not to go with the fingerprint scanner anymore, which I kind of like. I'll get into that later, but I really need the fingerprint scanner. At least I really like it. I don't want to hold the phone to my face all the time. My face is buried in a pillow. I just like being able to grab the phone from a distance and unlock it and bring it and start using it. That whole idea just didn't work well. My face is mashed up half the time. Now, what this isn't is a detailed review with a bunch of specs and charts and graphs. I don't have all that. That stuff's been covered in other reviews, so there's plenty of places to find all that kind of information. Not here, I won't be covering it. What I will cover is just some of the things I like and don't like about this new phone, and kind of what I'm finding different about this than the iPhone 6. Now, since we've left the iOS system, all the apps are different now, of course. Most of them, I think almost all of the apps I use, I could find on the Google Pixel, so that was kind of nice. The import was extremely easy. That part I really liked. I would just basically follow the directions and it imported everything from my iPhone over that it could. Since most passwords, or at least a lot of them, are held in Chrome or sort of, I don't know, in the cloud, let's just say, it was, even the passwords kind of came over a lot of things I was able to log right into. So the transition was pretty painless for the most part. Now, as far as using the apps, one of the things I do, of course, is since I use glasses, I turn the app size up. So I turn the font size up, I turn not up to the highest level, but pretty high. And a lot of app makers don't really program for this very well. So when it happens, the apps don't work quite as well, things go off the screen, it's a pain. It was also a pain on the iPhone too, so it's not just either one, it's just app makers kind of fall short in that area. Now, there is a huge difference on the Pixel, is that you don't have those sideways scrolling, at least you don't have to have the sideways scrolling the same way. You start from the bottom, scroll up, and all of a sudden all of your apps are there at one time, which can seem like a lot if you have a lot of apps, in alphabetical order, I believe. One striking thing that took me a day or two to notice was the bubbles are gone, the notification bubbles, and I thought, okay, how do I turn these on? How do I get to a bit of research? You can't. It doesn't exist. So I thought, how did you miss that? Or why? I just don't get it. I was like, where are the bubbles? Why do it not have the bubbles? So that tells you okay, you have 3 text messages or 8 text messages. If you're playing Word with Friends, you have 5 moves to play. I like the notification bubbles. Pixel has basically a dot telling you there is activity in there you can address, but otherwise they're gone. So kind of a huge pain there. Now, there is a workaround. Download an app. You have to actually buy the app, because you can get the app, but then you have to buy that extension for the app, so it's like $5 to get the pro version. Then you have to download another app to actually activate the bubbles. Now, when you do get a nice amount of control. You can put where the bubbles are, the circle, square. You get a lot more control, but that was kind of a pain, and you have to leave the Google Pixel launcher to another one, which involves some sacrifice there too. So that part was like, you guys are killing me. I did that though. In fact, I talked to a friend. It's like, you didn't notice that? He said, no, I've never really noticed that before. And he uses both phones. I thought, well, I did. And he said, it's just never been that important to me. I thought, that's crazy. So I switched it. I got the app. I got it going. And a few days later, I found I kind of like the Pixel launcher better. And I don't really need it, because a lot of the apps don't do a great job either of keeping in sync with the bubbles. So half the time they're wrong. I switched back. All that headache, I switched back, and I bought the app and everything. But yeah, I kind of went back to the Google Pixel launcher. I like that more. So turns out I didn't need the notification bubbles as much as I thought I did. But then I think the takeaway was that the Pixel allows you to kind of have this custom environment, a lot more control for the developers, or you can kind of customize it the way you want it to be, which that's, I guess, the plus side of it, is that a developer can bring the bubbles back or can do things like that if they want. So that's kind of a big plus for me. Granted, Apple in recent updates allows you a lot more control of the home screen too. You can start moving things in the bottom bar, and this has actually probably been that way for a while. I was just so used to it not being allowed, I never even tried for a while. But you can sort of shift things around. You just can't delete certain apps that are like the key apps, which is kind of annoying. So you have to, other people I guess do the same thing. You put it in like this garbage bin or this junk bin. That's not ideal, but it's out of the way for the most part. Some of the other things I missed about the iPhone was I like Notes. Notes, they've kind of dumbed it down a lot. It's not as nice as it used to be. Very simple, and simple can be good, but Notes was kind of a nice handoff. I could type it on my Mac. I still use Mac other products. I could type it on my Mac, I'd be at the store, and I could just pull up the iPhone, and there's my shopping list, or I can go get information, and it's a lot quicker, I think, sometimes than going through emails and getting it that way. It's just a more effective storage system for quick things, not for really in-depth things, but for quick things. There is an app for that. There's the Google Keep, so it works pretty much the same way, and if you've got internet access, I think a lot of things are being transitioned over to the browser now, so Google kind of takes advantage of Chrome or a browser, and you get your information that way. So there's a solution for it. Photos. Now this was probably the one key reason I did go with Pixel, was because of the night shot. I'll talk about that in a minute, but the photos overall are definitely better than the iPhone 6. I mean, it's been several years since they made the iPhone 6. Gosh, 4 years or so. So yeah, the photos were better. They're not there's not a world difference between them. They're noticeably better, but it wasn't like just night and day. And that's an interesting thing, was that the iPhone 8, I thought they were better than the iPhone 8. I really haven't compared the 10. Again, I didn't do a lot of photo comparison, but the night shot is, I think, better than anything else out there that I've seen. I mean, I know some of the phones from Asia, I can do, actually, they're all kind of made there, aren't they? But I think some of the other phones can do a great job with photos, so I've heard. But the Pixel, it does a great job with photos, and that night shot can make a huge difference. It's not something you can use all the time for quick photos, because you have to hold it up for a few seconds and kind of let it take all the shots. But the results are just amazing. So if you want a really good bokeh shot where the background is blurred and your subject is nice and sharp, well, you want a DSLR for that, but the phones with the double cameras obviously do a better job, because they can take advantage of two cameras. With one camera, it's software driven. It does a pretty good job a lot of the time. It's not perfect, but I don't really need it to be. As far as video, again, what's shocking is just how good the iPhone 6 video is. I did a comparison test, and wow, this is better, but it doesn't exactly blow this away. So I think video, and the cameras to some degree, are reaching the end of physics. It's like there's only so much you can do with a tiny, tiny little lens like this. So that's where software comes into play. The Pixel Night Shot is software, so it does a great job, but that means other makers can do the same. So this is better, but this is still pretty darn good. And knowing that, I decided to actually keep my old iPhone, just because I was going to sell it, but I decided to keep it because it serves as a great second camera, or even a prime video camera if I need to be using this for something else. So I realized I've got two pretty good cameras here, for video and for photos. As far as size, as I said, this is a bit heavier, of course, and I've got about the same size case on both of them. It might even be the same maker. They look the same. Nope, different brands, but they're probably made at the same place. Yeah, definitely bigger, heavier. This was already getting kind of hard to use one hand. I mean, it's easier, but the Pixel, yeah, one hand, you're kind of at the limit of what you can do. You can't do that much unless you kind of, yeah. So one-handed, it's not easy. You can do basic things, but you can't do a lot. It's kind of a trade-off. I mean, I did want a bigger screen. I did want more real estate. So I did get the XL just for those reasons alone, and bigger battery. Fingerprint Scanner. Now this is where Apple again lost me. They not only have it on the front, which is okay, but they got rid of it on the later phones. So I have a feeling some people speculate they might bring it back, which is good, because then I might have some future interest in Apple again. But having it on the back is just so nice because I pick it up and it's on. My finger just automatically goes to it. I mean, it's going to be in that area anyway, and now it goes to it. So that is a huge thing. I think it's, especially for a phone this size, because at this point it's hard to get the thumb around the front, and you don't have to sacrifice the screen for that. So this is just sometimes I do accidentally put it on the camera, but I'll probably after a while I'll probably always go right to there. So that is awesome. That is just one of the smartest things they've done. Other people do that as well, just not Apple. Now, one of the features I didn't even know about when I was researching the phone at first is the always on. So, yeah, you got the time there. It tells me the date. It tells me the temperature. If I had an alarm coming, it would tell me the alarm and what time. So it's a nice little feature that you get with OLED phones, and it's just a great idea because it's nice to always be able to, like, for one thing, find my phone in the dark because I always look down. It's not too bright where it keeps me up. It's just a cool little thing. And what's also nice about it is the kind of that thrown in bonus. It's more of a little like a bell and whistle, but it's the Shazam type recognize the song. If it hears a song playing, it tells you what song's playing. Kind of cool. I mean, I don't really need something like that, but if you're gonna throw it in, I'll take it. It also has the notifications that kind of come up and tells you what apps or need your attention or have sent you something. The problem is it's very small. They're so dinky. And I haven't really mentioned this before, is that Google, Pixel, all these operating systems are kind of following that trend that I think Microsoft really started years ago of just dumbing things down to such a large degree that icons kind of make no sense anymore. To me, I like the way Apple was at first, where it had just very skeuomorphic is what they're called, but things look like what they were. So if you had a camera application, it would look like a camera. The battery looked like a really cool battery, and it's just now it's so simple. It's boring, and it's just not very exciting. Oh, I've got a message right now. It's just not very exciting. So I don't like that, and Google did the same thing. Some things just absolutely make no sense at all. The assistant it's a bunch of dots. That doesn't help me. There's dots and triangles, and some of the stuff just is so unintuitive that drives me crazy, but there's no way around that. Everybody's doing that right now. I have a feeling someday we'll get away from that again, but for now, it's like, how is that? How is that a text message? Another thing in favor of the Pixel is that whole squeeze to use Google Assistant, which is cool, although you do have to kind of have it on for her to execute the command, so it has to be on, but you can squeeze it to hello, what's the weather like today? That is very odd. I said, what's the weather like today? And I got a matching video, so it's not perfect, neither is Siri. One note about this squeeze to go always on is that you put it in a car holder. I got the little clamp on my car, and it automatically does that first, so I have to escape out of it, but that's just the way it is. As far as what cables come with it, you get the headphone adapter, you get another little adapter. You don't even get something to plug into USB directly. You have to buy that separately, but that's just part of it. So again, you lose the headphone jack. I'm the type of person that really complains, like, no, why? But then someone will say, when's the last time you used a headphone jack? I don't know, a year or two ago. I have Bluetooth headphones. I don't really need it. It's kind of cool to have it, but if it also means that not having it allows this to be waterproof to a certain degree, I think I'd rather take the waterproof. So either or, I'll take the waterproof any day. I can use the adapter. Now, of course, leaving Apple, had to leave iTunes, which iTunes isn't great by any means. It was nice being able to go back and forth between iTunes on the phone, iTunes on the computer, but not a problem. You can use the Google Play, import everything, does a pretty good job, and all of a sudden I'm using a different piece of software, but it works just fine, so it's not the end of the world. Now, one thing is missing is the stocks, the default stocks app. I just couldn't believe they didn't include that, and I have a huge amount of stocks I follow, so I had to find a stocks app, which means I want a free version at first, which means I gotta see a bunch of ads, so that was pretty annoying that they couldn't include something like that. And I don't know, maybe there is a way to get an ad-free version for free, but so far I haven't found it. And since it didn't import my stocks, I gotta go and manually enter them all in. Another pain. So that is one for Apple, I guess. Same thing with news. I like the Apple News a little better, but Google does have a news feature and it works okay, so I guess that's alright. Also, when you're scrolling through the news, it does autoplay the videos. I hate that, but it mutes the videos, so I guess if you're gonna autoplay, as long as it's muted, I'm fine with that. Another little feature that I don't know if it's on other phones, but as it's playing the video and it's muted, you get subtitles of what's actually being said there. So that's kind of cool too. I can kind of see if I want to actually play the video or not, or go into it, or maybe that's for YouTube. It's a pretty neat feature. Now, I don't know if it's related, but when I switched off a Pixel launcher, I lost the weather. I had to go, I downloaded a few weather apps. They're all giving me way too many ads. So that was actually a reason I switched back to Pixel launcher. Now maybe I can still get the weather with the other launcher, but I don't know. For me, it's like another reason to go back to Pixel launcher. I like the weather. Now the ecosystem in general. I feel like the scrolling is just a bit better on the Apple. I feel like, I don't know, maybe it's the different size screen, or maybe it's just the way I'm scrolling, but I feel like either it's scrolling too much or scrolling too little, or it stops. It's not quite, it's not bad, but it's just not quite as nice as the Apple one. I think Apple's mastered that a little more. Maybe they have more time to work with it or polish. It's just a little more polished on the iPhone. Finally, one thing to talk about is the phone. I mean, how does it work as a phone? Well, a phone is a phone. They all kind of work the same to me. You got speakerphone, you got not speakerphone. But another reason I switched, I think there are two reasons: the camera and the call screening. Apple has done virtually nothing to combat call screen or spammers, and to me it was just unacceptable at a certain point. So when I saw friends using the Pixel and having, you know, the message say this is probably spam and being able to ignore those calls, I was kind of jealous. I thought, I want that. That's just so stupid that Apple can't give us that. They could. They just, for some reason, don't want to. So I tried it out. And wow, it's just amazing that it says, you know, probably likely spam or whatever it says. I thought, oh, that's so nice, and I could just not pick up the phone at all. And the other half of that is the Google Assistant, where it can start sending a message to that person saying, hey, start typing or saying what you want, and I'll get a written message of that, and I can see, do I want to pick up the phone? Well, spammers hang up right away, or either the machines do or the people do, but that is just so nice. So those two things as well, the Google Assistant and the kind of the showing that it's likely spam, they're just great. So it just seems like Google has been trying a little harder to compete with Apple. Apple's gotten complacent over the years. That is one of the main reasons I switched. So final verdict, I'm very happy with it actually. I like the phone a lot. I've only about a week and a half now, but I really kind of have not missed Apple as much as I thought I would. I've adapted to this pretty quickly, and there's a lot of similarities too. So it's not like this has gone from one extreme to the other. I just find, yeah, Pixel was trying a lot harder to, or Google was trying a lot harder to make a really good product, a product that is better than Apple. So by doing so, they're trying to, you know, find a way to surpass them in every way, except for the notification dots. They really should have included that and let you turn them off if you don't want them. That was kind of a missing part. Other than that, yeah, all around, I thought we've got a really good phone now. And again, the scrolling is, I think, a little better on the iOS. But I mean, the last updates I was getting from Apple, instead of like trying to fight our call or spam or like these spam phone calls, it was like, now you can do FaceTime in groups of 32, which apparently they had a problem with that. And now you can do animated poops and stuff like that. It's like, I don't really need that. Are you marketing towards tweens or something? It's like, Apple, what are you doing? So that was, you know, another reason. I may switch back. I bought the phone with the idea that I could switch back. So I'm not talking about right now. I'm talking about in years, maybe Apple comes along with another phone that's pretty good. They get the fingerprint ID back. They do some things and kind of get called. They could do a lot to win me back if they wanted to. But for now, I'm perfectly happy with the switch. I'll stick with this for I don't know how many years, and then we'll see. We'll see what happens in the future. But for now, Pixel 2 XL. I like it a lot. This is the Canon 77D, Canon 77D. This is the iPad Pro, the iPad Pro. This is the iPhone 6S. This is the iPhone 6S. This is the Pixel 2 XL video recording. was down early the following morning, and immediately after breakfast walked across to the stables and summoned Wellington, and we went together to the harness room. Yes, there were some half-dozen side saddles amongst the rest, I suppose. It was that I had never noticed them. Okay?